My mother lifted her champagne glass and announced that my sister's wedding was finally paid in full. I placed my cane against the dining chair and asked one question. Did you tell everyone the last $44,600 came from my surgery fund? My father gave me the look he used whenever I embarrassed him by telling the truth. Not tonight, Claire. Then Grandma's lawyer set a thick folder beside the wedding cake samples. Actually, he said, tonight is exactly when we need to discuss it. I'm Claire Bennett. I'm 31. I work as a payroll supervisor in Columbus, Ohio, and for most of my life, I was the daughter who could be counted on. My younger sister, Lauren, was the daughter who was celebrated. I handled problems. Lauren created occasions. I kept accepting that difference because I wanted something embarrassingly simple. I wanted my parents to look at me with the same pride they showed her. At the time of that dinner, I was waiting for reconstructive surgery on my right hip. I'd been born with mild hip dysplasia, but by 30, I couldn't stand for more than 15 minutes without sharp pain. My surgeon warned that delaying much longer could cause permanent damage and leave me needing a full replacement before 40. My insurance covered most of the operation, but my deductible, coinsurance, therapy, medical leave, and temporary home care would cost about $50,000. I had saved $18,700 over 3 years. My grandmother, Eleanor, added $32,000. She asked her attorney, Marcus Hale, to prepare a small medical trust. I was the only beneficiary. My retired father became trustee and promised to pay the hospital directly while I focused on treatment. The rules were plain. The money could be used only for documented expenses connected to my surgery and recovery. Dad had to keep receipts and provide statements when requested. I should have been protected. What I didn't know was that 3 months before my surgery, Dad stopped sending Grandma the quarterly summaries. She noticed and called Marcus. A week before the family dinner, he called me with a question that made my hands go cold. Claire, did you authorize a $9,800 payment to Willow and Pine Events? Willow and Pine was Lauren's wedding planner. Until that call, I believed the trust was untouched. Lauren got engaged 11 months earlier to a decent man named Daniel. Her first plan was reasonable. 80 guests at a local hotel, dinner, music, and a short honeymoon. Then Mom joined the planning. Within 6 weeks, 80 guests became 160. The hotel became a renovated vineyard. Lauren added a custom dress, a string quartet, imported flowers, and a cake with hand-painted sugar orchids. Every upgrade came with the same explanation. She only gets one wedding. When I mentioned that I only had one functioning hip, Mom sighed as if I were competing with the bride. No one is asking you to cancel your surgery, she said. Stop making everything about it. I wasn't making everything about it. I was using a cane. The first real warning came during Lauren's dress fitting. Mom asked me to carry garment bags from the car because the bridesmaids were taking pictures. I managed 2 before my leg buckled near the entrance. Lauren caught one and stared at the plastic cover. Please don't damage the dress because you're in a mood. I sat in the car with an ice pack while they drank champagne inside. Later, Mom posted a photo of the bridal party with the caption, "All my girls together." I wasn't in it. A month later, my parents asked me to postpone surgery until after the wedding. My operation was scheduled for September 12th. The wedding was October 3rd. Mom said my crutches would pull focus in the photographs. Dad claimed waiting until the next available date in February would not matter. I showed him my surgeon's warning. He barely glanced at it. You've lived with this for years, he said. Another 5 months won't kill you. I refused. After that, the family group chat filled with jokes about whether I would need a wheelchair at the reception. Lauren sent me photos of silver mobility scooters and wrote, "At least match the color scheme." Then the hospital finance office contacted me. My $24,000 deposit was due in 10 business days, but no payment had been arranged. I called Dad from the parking lot after work. He sounded irritated, not confused. I was going to handle it. The hospital hasn't heard from you. He paused. In the background, Mom said, "Just tell her." Dad lowered his voice. "We moved some money temporarily." From the trust? Lauren's venue had a deadline. We would have lost the date. I gripped the steering wheel. My surgery is in September. We're refinancing. We'll replace it before February. Then you expect me to reschedule. Mom took the phone. Your sister has dreamed about this day since she was a child. You're asking us to humiliate her in front of Daniel's family over a surgery you can still have later? I asked how much they had taken. She said, "Don't be dramatic." That told me the amount was worse than they wanted to admit. I went to their house the next morning. Dad refused to show me the account and said that as trustee, he was allowed to manage the money. I reminded him that managing was not the same as spending. Lauren arrived halfway through the argument. She already knew. "They're paying it back," she said. "Why are you acting like I stole your organs? Did you know the money was for my surgery?" Her eyes moved toward Mom. That's not the whole story. It was enough of the story. She had accepted the planner, flowers, and venue payments while knowing where at least some of the money came from. Maybe my parents told her it was temporary, but she knew my surgery was scheduled, and she never called me. Dad ordered me to leave before I said something unforgivable. So I left. 2 days later, Grandma's lawyer called. Marcus asked me to meet at his office and bring my hospital estimate, surgery date, and every message concerning the trust. Grandma was already there. She was 79, small, sharp-eyed, and furious in a quiet way that made everyone else seem loud. Marcus showed me the statements Dad had finally produced after receiving a formal demand for an accounting. The fund had contained $50,700. $6,100 remained. There were payments to the planner, vineyard, florist, bridal boutique, and rental company. Dad's handwritten ledger described them as rehabilitation planning, inpatient facility costs, mobility equipment, and home access services. But the transfers were not the worst part. Several false entries carried my mother's initials. She was not the trustee. She had no authority to approve anything. Dad had let her use the trust debit card, and together they had created descriptions meant to disguise wedding charges as medical expenses. Marcus chose his words carefully. "This is a serious breach of the trust terms. Your grandmother can remove your father as trustee, demand repayment, and, if necessary, ask the probate court for an accounting and surcharge. Our first priority is protecting your treatment." Grandma covered my hand. "I gave that money so you could walk without pain," she said. "Not so people could drink champagne under rented lights." I wanted to feel relieved. Instead, I felt ashamed. I had spent years defending my parents and telling myself being dependable was a compliment. Even then, part of me wondered whether exposing them would make me selfish. Marcus seemed to read my face. "Setting a boundary does not create the misconduct," he said. "It only stops you from carrying it." Grandma had enough savings to replace the hospital deposit, but I did not want her paying twice. Marcus proposed a controlled plan. Grandma removed Dad as trustee and appointed a professional trust company. The new trustee would pay the hospital directly, keeping my surgery on schedule. Marcus sent my parents a demand for the missing $44,600, with copies of the vendor transfers and altered ledger. They had 10 days to agree to repayment before he filed in court. I saved every text and stopped arguing. 3 days later, Mom invited me to a peace dinner at their house. Lauren's future in-laws, 2 aunts, an uncle, and the bridesmaids would be there. Mom said she wanted to clear up my misunderstanding before it damaged the wedding. Marcus had received the same invitation from Grandma. My parents wanted witnesses, but only if they controlled the story. So Grandma accepted for both of us. The dinner began with champagne and wedding cake samples. My parents acted cheerful. Lauren wore white and spoke loudly about the vineyard's final payment. After dessert, Mom tapped her spoon against her glass. "Claire has been under stress because of her health," she said. "She accused us of taking money that was always meant for family needs." Dad added, "We made a temporary adjustment. No one stole anything." Daniel stopped cutting his cake sample. Mom turned to me. "We're asking Claire to apologize and confirm that she supports her sister's wedding." There it was. If I apologized publicly, they could repeat it later as proof that I approved the transfers. I folded my napkin beside my plate. "I support Lauren getting married," I said. "I don't support paying for it with a medical trust." Dad pushed back his chair. "This is private." Grandma spoke from the other end of the table. "No, it is my trust." Marcus placed the folder down. He did not threaten anyone or announce criminal charges. He handed Dad a formal notice confirming his removal as trustee, then gave both my parents copies of the repayment demand. Dad scanned the page. "You can't do this at dinner." "Mrs. Bennett instructed me to deliver the documents while the relevant parties were present," Marcus said. "I won't discuss anything beyond what she has authorized." Grandma nodded. "Tell them where the money went." Marcus read the vendor names and amounts. $9,800 to the planner, $12,000 to the vineyard, $7,400 to the florist, $6,200 to the bridal boutique, $9,200 for rentals, lighting, and transportation. Daniel set down his fork. Lauren, did you know? She stared at the table. I knew they borrowed some of it. From her surgery fund? Mom answered for her. It was going to be replaced. Marcus turned one page. The ledger described the vineyard payment as an inpatient facility deposit. No one needed a speech after that. Dad accused Grandma of choosing me over the family. I chose the person whose money you took, she replied. Mom cried because Daniel's parents now knew. She kept saying the wedding would be ruined. I looked at Lauren. You were worried my crutches would spoil your pictures? I said. You were willing to risk my ability to walk so the pictures could happen at a vineyard? I didn't think it was that serious, she whispered. You never asked. That was all I needed to say. Daniel's parents withdrew the $20,000 contribution they had planned to make until the trust was repaid. Daniel postponed the wedding and told Lauren they would choose what they could afford without anyone else's medical money. My parents signed a settlement 3 weeks later. They sold their recreational vehicle, returned refundable wedding upgrades, and paid $31,000 immediately. The remaining $13,600 went onto a 12-month repayment schedule with interest and automatic transfers. If they missed payments, Marcus could continue the court action. Dad was permanently removed as trustee. Grandma changed her estate plan so neither parent would ever control money intended for me again. My surgery happened on September 12th. The first week was brutal. The first month was slow. 6 months later, I walked through a grocery store without a cane for the first time in nearly 2 years. Lauren and Daniel eventually married at a community garden with 32 guests. I wasn't invited. That hurt less than I expected. Mom still tells relatives that Grandma and I destroyed Lauren's dream wedding. Dad sends holiday messages ending with, "Life is too short for grudges." I don't answer. Grandma visits every Sunday. We drink coffee at my kitchen table, and sometimes she brings the folder Marcus prepared. She says I should remember what careful records can protect. For years, I thought being dependable meant absorbing every loss quietly. I believed love was proven by how much pain I could tolerate without inconveniencing anyone. My parents took my surgery fund because they were certain I would postpone my life to protect Lauren's perfect day. They were wrong. The surgery repaired my hip. The truth repaired something deeper. I stopped begging for a place in a family that only valued me when I made myself smaller.